Mitch Marner has been the main talk this offseason, from regular hockey guys on Twitter to highly respected NHL analysts. Will the Leafs be able to get a contract done by training camp? Will another team put an offer sheet in? Will Marner head to Europe? Are the Leafs going to have to end up trading him? All these questions and more, and I'm sure if you're a Leafs fan at this point, you're sick and tired of hearing. But let's say the unthinkable were to happen. Some NHL GM is crazy enough to send an offer sheet to get an elite level hockey talent. Which teams would even be able to put in said offer? Marner's contract is in the talks of above $10 million. Meaning 4 first-round picks would have to be sent to the Toronto Maple Leafs for compensation. While every team in the NHL could technically offer sheet Marner using picks from up to 2024, only 7 teams could realistically afford it with a cap situation. Those teams being the Arizona Coyotes, the Buffalo Sabres, Carolina Hurricanes, the Detroit Red Wings, the New Jersey Devils, the Montreal Canadiens, and the New York Islanders. Today we're going to be taking a little road trip around the NHL. Using the simulation engine in NHL 20, we are going to see what would happen if one of those 7 teams ended up putting in an offer sheet for Mitch Marner. Alright, so starting things off, we have the Arizona Coyotes. They're one of the teams that can offer sheet Mitch Marner, and you know what, he might be able to get him a playoff berth, honestly. Kessel, Marner playing on that first line might work out well for them. Schmaltz up the middle. All depends on how things go this season. So we'll see you at the end of the season to see how the Arizona Coyotes. So the Oats had an absolute massive season. 82 games played, 45 wins and 30 losses, 97 points. They take the Pacific. Let's take a look at the season stats. So Marner, just above a point a game, was feeding Phil the Thrill Kessel all season. 25 goals, 60 assists for 85 points, plus 4, a 14% shooting percentage. Just absolutely incredible. So we're going to see you guys after the playoffs and just see how far the Yotes can take this amazing regular season. So after the first series of the Yotes being back in the playoffs, they did fall in 5 games to the Dallas Stars. They won the first one and then lost the next 4. How did Marner do, though, is the question here. So he played 5 games, got 2 points, 2 assists. Not that hot. So, I mean, honestly, they made the playoffs with him. Wouldn't be a bad idea for them to offer sheet him. We are going to jump to the next team. So we'll see you guys in Buffalo. So the first line for the Sabres with Marner on it is an absolute lights-out line. You have Jeff Skinner, Jack Eichel, Mitch Marner. I'm expecting Marner to be at least a point-of-game player with playing both with Skinner and Eichel. I think he's just going to be dishing the puck incredibly. Do I think the Sabres are going to make the playoffs, though? I don't think it's going to happen, so it's, I don't know. Only one way to find out. So we'll see you guys at the end of the season simulation. So, Mitch Marner helped the Sabres somehow secure the Atlantic Division. They had 48 wins, 27 losses, 7 overtime losses for 103 points, which behind Dallas was the second best in the league. Super impressive. Marner already posting 92 points, is best up the 2 teams. Let's go ahead and dive deeply into it. So pretty much we can already see Marner is just feeding Skinner and Eichel all season. 70 assists for 92 points, 22 goals. Just an incredible season. He was shooting another 14% on the Sabres. Oh, man, this guy just huge advantage for Buffalo. That first line firepower really made a big difference for them. So we'll see you guys after their playoff run. They're going to win a cup? Let me know down in the comment section. We're about to find out. So after a 7-game series against the New Jersey Devils, the Buffalo Sabres can't pull it out as, I don't know, maybe Marner just cannot get out of the first round. He did have a better series in Buffalo, though. He got 4 points in the 7 games. He only shot 6%, though, which is kind of crappy when you're taking 15 shots. So, I don't know. But yeah, definitely his 95-point season is definitely a little bit better than what happened in Arizona. So, we're going to go ahead to Carolina and see how he does there. So on probably one of the lower end teams out of the teams on the list, I would say Detroit's probably at the bottom. This is definitely a really sick line that Marner is going to be on. So playing with Toivo Teravainen and Sebastian Aho, I think they're just going to absolutely light up the league this year. So I'm expecting a playoff berth from the Hurricanes. I expect them to go back in, and I think they're going to at least make it to the second. But we'll see. We're about to find out. We'll see after the season's done. So unfortunately, because of just great play by the other teams in the division, putting up a pretty good season. 41 wins, 35 losses, 6 overtime losses, only got them 88 points, and they weren't able to get the final spot there in the Metro because the Devils ended up getting it. They were a little bit behind the Maple Leafs for that wild card spot, though, at 89 points. So they could have done it with 1 or 2 more wins, but they weren't able to get it. Looking at the stats here, this is the first time that Marner wasn't at least a point-a-game player. He only put up 77 points. It just looked like that first line was just more about dishing the puck than putting it in the back of the net. And obviously that doesn't really work for Mitch Marner that well. He needs an absolute sniper on his line to feed... to take all the good feeds that he's got and just absolutely bury them. So 29 goals, 48 assists for 77 points, shooting 12%. You know what? Honestly, still a decent season for Marner. I don't think it was bad, but definitely not as good as the other two teams. So let's go ahead and head on to New Jersey and see how he does with the Devils. All right, so I think that this may be the most points that Marner puts up in a season is playing on the Devils because he's got Hall on that other wing. Hall is a known sniper, and I think that he's just absolutely going to bury the puck from Marner in the back of the net this season. So I'm expecting at least 90 points from him. It's all going to depend on how Corey Schneider decides to play in net this year in the simulation. If he plays good, they're going to be a really deep playoff team. If he plays bad, it might be a little iffy. We'll see you guys at the end of the season. So, unfortunately, the Devils' goaltending wasn't enough to get them into the playoffs. They finished with 83 points, just about a 500 team, 39, 38, and 5 for 83 points. How did the wildcard spot go? So they were only 3 points out of the playoffs, so it is super interesting to see if maybe Corey Schneider could have won at least one game for them, or a second game, they would have had that playoff spot. That being said, watching the simulation throughout the entire season, I noticed that when they won big, but when they lost huge. So goaltending is definitely New Jersey's problem. If they would have had a solid goaltender, they easily would have been a shoo-in for a playoff spot. That being said, Marner had a worse season playing with the Devils than he did playing with the Hurricanes. He only had 73 points, but he put up 52 assists. Taylor Hall was only able to net 27 of those goals, but I figured he would get way more. For some reason, he just couldn't figure it out this year, I guess. I don't know. 73 points, 11.9 shooting percentage for Marner. Not a good look. Definitely the worst he's done so far in the simulation. That being said, we're heading to the Motor City to see how Marner does against the Toronto Maple Leafs rival, the Detroit Red Wings. So this is easily probably the worst team that can actually afford to offer sheet Marner. That being said, he does get to play next to Dylan Larkin. I'm not expecting much out of the Red Wings for this season. I'm expecting Marner probably to get around the 60-70 point area, as he doesn't have a lot of good players around him yet. That being said, if this were to happen, this would definitely help set up the Red Wings for a very prosperous future going forward. So we'll see you guys at the end of the season simulation, see how Marner did with the Wings wheel. So just kind of like I predicted, the Red Wings finished with 82 points, 2 points ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. And yeah, it wasn't a good season for the Wings. Wasn't a really good season for Marner and himself. Let's go ahead and just dive right into it. So he just did not want to shoot the puck. Dylan Larkin pretty much, and Tyler Bertuzzi, the only two guys on the team that actually decided that they were going to shoot. Marner had 51 assists though, so that's absolutely insane. Still finished with 70 points, definitely the worst out of the simulation. But at that being said, he also had the worst teammates to play with. So I wasn't really expecting a lot from the Wings. I mean, the 9.7 shooting percentage is not a good look. That definitely should have been higher. So it is what it is. We're going to have to head north of the border next to a little French town. So we're in Montreal, and I'm expecting Marner to have an absolute year. He has players around him. He has a good goalie. There's a half-decent defensive core behind him with Petrie and Weber, and then, whatever behind. Montreal should be a good team. They have good players. I don't see why they can't make things happen. I'm expecting a playoffs out of them. I'm expecting at least a point a game from Marner this year. There's only one way to find out, so we will see you guys at the end of the season simulation. Hopefully, the Canadiens are playoff bound. So even after putting a great run in at the end of the season, the Montreal Canadiens just barely missed the playoffs once again, finishing with 42 wins, 32 losses, 8 overtime losses for 92 points. That being said, the Senators just somehow had a better season with 97 points, and they get that wild card spot. Another 70-point season for Marner, and just not very many goals, but a lot of freaking assists. He dishes the puck so well. Definitely probably one of the best playmakers in the game. 70 points, 51 assists, 19 goals, shooting at 10.5%. I mean, I thought for sure that this team would be able to get it done and go deep in the playoffs, but I guess they just weren't feeling it. At the end of the season, they made a really good push there. We have one team left to see if they're able to do it and win a Stanley Cup or something, and that's the team that would probably hurt Leaf fans the most. So the Leafs took Tavares, but the Islanders get the last laugh as Marner ends up getting Offersheeted, and this is what we have to look forward to if this were to happen. Jordan Eberle, Barzal, Mitch Marner, first line, that's pretty good. Even the second line is pretty good. They're pretty deep along the board. I think that they can make a decent run. They have a good defensive core, and Semyon Varlamov in net, so honestly anything can happen. We need one team to make a deep playoff run. Islanders, you're our last chance. We'll see at the end of the season. So by far the worst for a team to actually do is the Islanders. They got 79 points, 37 wins, 40 losses, 5 overtime losses. I was expecting more to you Islanders. I was expecting more, and you let me down. That being said, Marner actually shot the puck really freaking well. Holy crap. 15% he was shooting, 30 goals, 44 assists for 74 points. It's still sad. I wanted so badly the Islanders to make a good rush into the playoffs. Maybe part of the reason they played so badly is because Eberle was only shooting 7% across the season. I'm not entirely 100% sure, but this is by far the worst. Outcome so far out of the simulations. So that's going to conclude it. The 7 teams that can actually offer sheet Mitch Marner, that's how it would go. Basically, the Yotes and Buffalo would make the playoffs, be first-round exits. Other teams would not. Obviously, by the simulation standings, it would make most sense for the Yotes and the Sabres both to offer sheet them, so that way they could add them to their team for the playoff. But let's be real here. Any teams that offer sheets Mitch Marner is getting an absolute stud, a star that's going to be there and just get better and better as the years go on. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully Leafs fans don't hate me too much for making this video, but it would be cool to see what would happen if Mitch Marner did get offer sheeted and went to go play for these teams, how the teams would end up doing. I guess the little bit of sweetness in this is that Toronto is still going to do better than every team that offer sheets him. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. This was a little fun thing to do, just basically to play what if. These types of things we have no other way of seeing, so this is the only way that we could possibly do it is with the game. So keep that in mind when you rip into me in a comment saying that this is stupid and all that other stuff, because I know it's going to happen. This was just for fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you got something out of it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, definitely be sure to do that so you don't miss these uploads going forward. If you guys have any ideas, definitely be sure to comment it down in the comment section and we'll make sure they happen, because I love doing stuff like this. Essentially, what could be, right? So if you like the video, definitely be sure to hit the like button. Other than that, I want to thank you guys for watching once again, and we will talk to you guys next time.